can. That's a huge part of being healthy internally. Just like you're not going to have poison in your fridge and then expect that you're going to be healthy, right? That's something you're taking in. So being mindful of what you look at, being mindful of what you're listening to, being mindful of the type of talk, not just self-talk, but what's coming out of your mouth. What kind of conversations are you having? Just be mindful of these things. This is all intake into your heart. And so be mindful that, your news feed on social media, whatever type of social media that is. Think of that like your fridge, okay? You open up your fridge, that's what you're gonna eat that day. And it's the same thing with your news feed. That's what you're gonna eat that day, but you're gonna eat it spiritually and psychologically. Does that make sense? Because everything you read, everything you're exposed to, it's intake. And that all goes into the heart. And that affects you. So try to maybe make it more healthy. And that's something that you guys can do. And I always remind people there's this amazing thing on social media called unfollow, And it's no one's gotta know. That's the beauty of it. Right? There's nothing necessarily haram about having every single thing you're following being a hijab tutorial and a makeup tutorial and a fashionista and all that kind of stuff. I'm not talking about haram and halal. I just want to remind you about what matters most. That's all. That's all. It's just a reminder that what you focus on grows. When the only thing you're exposed to is how people are looking and dressing and fashion, then what happens is your mindset shifts. And that becomes your focal point. It becomes the most important thing to you. And that's not necessarily healthy. Because then that shifts your focus to and almost an obsession with the superficial. That's a problem. And I think that's my biggest concern when it comes to this social media craze that we have right now, is that just what's happened is it's pushed us to be so focused on the surface. So focused on how we appear, how we look, right? If you aren't perfect, put a filter on it. Yeah, there's a filter for everything. And so but what it's done is it's pushed us towards this obsession with appearances. And that's concerning. Of course, that then leads to other types of psychological issues, right? You have the issues of eating disorders, and you have the issues of body image, that you don't ever feel like you're good enough. But this is affected by what we're exposed to. Number 5, one of the most effective ways they found in psychological studies to increase someone's own happiness and their own well-being is to be in the service of others. This is something that studies have found. It's in positive psychology, they're moving away from just looking at disorders, but looking at how can we improve our well-being? How can we improve the quality of our lives? And they call it flourishing. And one of the things they found that one of the most effective ways is service, social, that being involved in they call it pro-social behaviors. So things that help others. This is something that we can do. And not only are you going to help someone else, but ultimately you actually help yourself. One of the fastest ways to pick yourself up when you're down is to help another person who's down. Just so being in the service of others. Number 6, sometimes the pain that we feel is an indication that there's something we need to change in our life circumstances. For example, we are in an unhealthy relationship, perhaps an abusive relationship. And the pain that we're feeling is because we need to get out of that unhealthy relationship or that abusive relationship. So sometimes we have to also look at our lives and see what are the things in our lives. See, because our hearts and our minds and our body, they give us indications about things that are going wrong, and we have to go and make a change. Number 7, let go of the myth of perfection. Especially us women, we are taught that we're supposed to be perfect. And this myth is actually crippling us. And I'm just going to come from, even from a spiritual perspective. When we believe that we're supposed to be perfect, what happens is that when we slip or we commit a sin, many people fall into despair. And the reason they fall into despair is because they had the myth of perfection. When in fact, Allah and His Messenger never taught us that we're supposed to be perfect. Human beings by definition are human in that they are not perfect. We are not perfect, and we will slip and we will commit sins, and we're told that the best of us are not those who don't commit sins, but those who repent and get back up when they slip. And so keeping in mind that you're not supposed to be perfect, but what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us to do is to not give up hope and to continue to go forward. And when we fall, because everyone falls sometimes, everyone slips sometimes. And when you do, having that, not falling into despair spiritually, but knowing that we're not meant to be perfect and getting back up. That those who repent are those who are most beloved to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Finally, number 8 is making sure we have the right center of gravity. Sometimes we take things and we put them at the center of our lives. This is called an ilah. An ilah is something not just that you pray to, but something that you revolve your entire existence around. Now, what happens to a human being when they take the wrong things and revolve their existence around it, it causes excruciating suffering. All right? What do I mean by that? When people take things, for example, like money, and they put it at the center of their existence, they will suffer. When people take something like, even if it's another person, sometimes it's your own children. A lot of us fall into that, especially as mothers, yeah? Even your own children, if you put them at the center of your existence, where only God should be, it will cause an excruciating amount of suffering. If you take status or power or what other people think of you, yeah? These are things that sometimes we take and put them at the center of our existence. And that place is only intended for God. And when it is replaced with something else, it causes excruciating pain.